All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg. So glad to be talking today. It is a Thursday, the 12th day. Yeah, 12th day of June. And we talked about the New Jersey election the past couple days, the primary, and the result not what we were hoping for, but not a huge surprise either. And at least Josh Gottheimer, who was the worst option, I believe, in the New Jersey Democratic primary, did not prevail, but Mikey Sherrill did. Not much better. Basically, just your garden variety Democratic apparatchik, a capitalist tool of the capitalists, I should say, the billionaire class, and very, very unfortunate. But it is what it is. There is an election coming up in New York City. We've been very, very centered on it over the past week or so, and we'll continue to talk about that today. You can see from the slide I used, I guess the thumbnail is the term, right? I said that before. It is the thumbnail that we use in YouTube to try to promote the video. And you can see that I'm backed off just the slightest little tiny bit from where I had been. Yesterday, we had a vote for Mamdani with just an exclamation point, and there were some headlines that were superimposed in there that showed kind of problems with both Cuomo, with Cuomo. We didn't address Eric Adams. Eric Adams not in the primary, but he is in this thumbnail. And if you're wondering why, because he will be in the general election ballot. And I think there's a real shot. He could somehow squeak through. We'll talk much more about the details of that election, but I just wanted to kind of give you a quick kind of opening salvo for the program, where I note the slight change. I won't say it's a sea change. We still support at Halitics, and we meaning me. I still support at Halitics. I still support Zoran Mamdani for mayor. But I put a question mark in there as well. And we've got a video that kind of explains why I'm just the slightest bit less enthusiastic about Mamdani's bid. So you can see it there, vote Mamdani. And, I'll make the point. I made it before. I think you have to vote for candidates to the extent that they're going to make life better. You can't say, well, they're the lesser of two evils. If they're going to make things worse on balance, I'm really very, very unlikely to vote for them. If a candidate like a Harris, like a Hillary Clinton is on the ballot and their record demonstrates to me, and their rhetoric demonstrates to me, that they're going to make things affirmatively worse than they were when they took office, then I'm not going to support them. It's going to be very, very difficult for you to persuade me to support them. That's why I would vote for Green. Now, I did vote for Biden in 2020. And, I thought at that time he probably would make things better. I believe I was wrong. He did continue the process of getting us out of Afghanistan, which was a good thing. But when you look at the escalation, the provocations against Russia, the support, the full-throated, unwavering support that his administration provided for Israel, the embrace of ever more extraction and production of fossil fuels, Joe Biden made things worse. And I believe so would have Harris. And that is why I supported Jill Stein for president. And that's why I most certainly will vote Green in 2028. We'll see. Now, in New York, I think Mamdani is likely to make things a little better for New Yorkers. But that feeling, that sense, based on what he has said, based on the way he's campaigned, based on who supports him, that sense was shaken very slightly by a video that was posted by the Do Dissidents Bros, an interview of Mamdani. And ironically, they actually, or at least one of them, Russell, is going to, he says he endorses Mamdani. So even though he was concerned, like I am concerned by Mamdani's answer to a specific question that Russell put to him, we're still on Team Mamdani. And so we'll get into that in great detail. I think it's really important. Also, I want to talk about a guy named Dave Smith. He is a pretty popular, certainly I say pretty, much more popular, many more subscribers than I have, but not as many as I had sort of thought he might have when I looked at his subscriber base. He has been one of the most outspoken YouTubers against Israel. And for that, you can't show, there's only, the appreciation is tremendous. But there are limits. He is a libertarian, and you see the limits, not of his support for Palestine. I didn't see any limits there. Maybe there are. I'm not, I haven't followed him closely. I know he's been very critical of the Israeli genocide, which is tremendous. But the philosophy or the ideology of libertarianism is limited at best. And we see those limitations in full flower. So I'll play that video for you as well, and finally get into what I think is the answer, what we have to do. And it's not something new. You've heard me say it over and over again, what I think the answer is. The situation remains, and it continues to worsen. I mean, every day, more horrors. Every day, more atrocities. Every day, more pogroms against the people of Gaza, perpetrated by Israel with the support of the United States. There was a video, I don't play it, I'm not going to play it here, but that Jimmy, on the Jimmy Dore show, where they went through the murders at the food distribution site. So these absolutely desperate people herded together. They gather in very dense groups of people early in the morning trying to get first in line to get food, and then they're shot at by the Israeli military. In addition, the Israeli government is actually arming Gaza gangs. So Gazan gangs are preying on other Gazans with the support, with the weaponry supplied by the Israeli military. So that's what Israel's done. They've herded people together. They've given them a tiny little bit of food, barely enough to survive. For some of them to survive, right? Not all of them. They're being starved deliberately. But there's some food available. They throw it in to watch the people fight for the scraps. And they also arm young people who, men, I presume, all men who are not, fully developed, full prefrontal lobe, and let them go ahead and clean up many of their fellow Gazans. So this is just the worst thing we've seen, and I wasn't alive, obviously, during the Second World War, during the first Holocaust, but this is, God, I just can't believe, there's more inhumanity now. I can't believe there was more inhumanity then than what we're seeing in Gaza. By the way, I have a new viewer there, Rosa Shoshana. Hey, Shoshana, I know she has some different views than I do on Israel. If you want to call in, Shoshana, I'll have to talk to you, 240-242-5646. And of course, that works if you're on YouTube as well. And we continue to see that YouTube subscriber base grow slowly, but it is growing. And that is, for me, the most important thing. Certainly is gratifying to see more folks on YouTube as subscribers. 55,200 Gazans killed at a minimum, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. And we know their numbers are always an undercount. Do please click subscribe now. We would love to keep that number growing. There's your subscribe now button. Do like the video. Very much appreciated if you click like. And finally, would love to see you right there on Facebook in our Facebook group. Join Halitics on Facebook. The numbers, we always center Gaza, mentioned over 55,200. The precise death count, as far as we can get, right? I mean, there's no way to know. There's so many, there's bodies under the rubble. There's people who have starved. It's, unclear. The infrastructure is largely broken down, but According to the health ministry there, this is Anadolu Ajansi, the Turkish agency, 55,207 Palestinians killed in Israel's genocidal war. 103 more dead today, this morning, as of this morning. 103 more dead over the past 24 hours. And that builds on the 120 dead yesterday. It's clear that Israel is stepping up its killing, with many victims still under the rubble. This is a bipartisan genocide. The Democratic Party, with few exceptions, and the Republican Party, with even fewer exceptions, pretty much all in for the Israeli murders. So there it is. There's your number one more time. 55,207 minimum. Trump and Netanyahu close to 5,000 now, with a count of nearly, or probably over 2,000. By the way, we do have Shoshana. We'll get to you in just a moment. Shoshana, 240-242-5646. Again, that is our number here. And so let me welcome, Shoshana. How are you today?
Hi, Boker Or, which, means good morning in Hebrew. Do you know that, Hal?
No, I didn't catch your Hebrew greeting, but shalom.
Okay. Listen, there's a restaurant. Wait, should I turn you on? I better lower you on my iPhone right now.
Yeah, I can hear the background there, so thank you for doing that, so we don't have the feedback. And yeah, I'm getting you back, so I'm going to have to go ahead. Turn that down. Go ahead, Shoshana.
I have. Just want to say that there's a restaurant in Tacoma Park that you may be aware of called the Olive Lounge. It is, I consider it a neutral territory when I'm in there. I like going there. It is a Palestinian-owned restaurant. And maybe you should visit it, and maybe you could have a broadcast. Well, then it would get political, I guess. Hal, you need to go to Israel. You need to visit it at least once. Maybe visit Palestine, too, when you're there. Israel is like part of my heart, I can't, and I'm nowhere near as embroidered or wedded to it as many Jews are. I really am disappointed in that Greta Thunberg. I thought she was brighter, to just be so so focused from like a straight line. I mean, it's good to be focused on totally pro-Palestinian and thinking the Israelis are a bunch of savages.
Well, they are, aren't they? I mean, they're wiping a group of people off the planet. How can that? Under what possible scenario do you see that as okay?
Of course not, but. Isn't there some kind of quasi, at least, ceasefire going on? That, they won't get, Israel's funding is kind of correlated to how civilized they are in treating the Palestinians?
I haven't heard of that at all. It just doesn't seem to be. The Trump administration has been shipping even bigger and more deadly weapons to Israel than Biden. And the Harris-Biden administration fought all efforts to restrict support or supplies to Israel.
Let me ask you something. I can put my foot in my mouth very easily, the lack of knowledge and education about certain things. All the big companies that you see when you're driving into Virginia, like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, and the big giants. I once tried to get a job with one of them as a technical writer. I only got as far as a few words on the telephone after they got my resume. Never had an interview. But the thing is, do they go to Israel and find out what the needs are before they design and put their entry-level $90,000 a year new employees who are beginning engineers or whatever you would call them, to find out exactly what Israel wants to do? Or do they just design and Israel decides to buy it? Or the United States says this is what you're going to get? How does it work?
I wouldn't know. I've never worked for one of those big corporations in my life. My guess is that when you have very valuable clients who spend millions, even billions of dollars annually, that you work closely with them. You have your top, your top account managers speak to their top people, and you sit down and you work out exactly what each, what they want. And throughout the entire design process and production process, the client is closely involved.
Do they have offices in Israel? I guess you wouldn't know that, but probably something.
I would be surprised if they don't. Again, anytime you have a client that's, a big fish, you're going to do everything you can to keep that big fish as happy as you can.
Firms need to be told that they can only design if those missiles and whatever masses of what were they called of destruction, weapons of destruction. What Bush coined the term. If it's going to go into an empty field or something, it can't go into civilian areas. I mean.
Of course, that's our policy. We don't need to provide Israel with weapons at all, as far as I'm concerned. But, maybe there's an argument there, I guess. I agree with Mamdani that our support for Israel should be conditioned on its being a truly egalitarian state where everyone has equal political rights. But that's just not the case. So I don't have an answer, Shoshana, but I do just personally, your personal journey. I know your Judaism is very important to you. We've talked before. We're friends. I know how important it is to you, but doesn't the actions of Israel not cause you to renounce your religion? I wouldn't say that or even question it, but doesn't that make you question maybe the importance of a Jewish state or the relevance of a Jewish state or the morality of having a Jewish state?
I feel, it's kind of like a medicine. There are negative effects, but then you know what it says on when you buy when you have prescription. Well, you have bought it. When you buy medicine, on some level you've bought it or you get it through your prescription program. It says the benefits far outweigh the negatives. So I'm still feeling there were more positives to Israel than negatives. I mean, I wouldn't mind if you...
Well, they're not for the Palestinian people, right? I mean, what benefit do you get? Let me ask you this. You would agree that for the people of Gaza, the side effects have been deadly. But what benefits... And I'm serious. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm really not. Like, what do you feel you get out of there being a Jewish state?
I feel... I feel like it's compensation for, like the stuff that happened with Anne Frank, okay? Walking down the street there. I've been to Israel 3 times. I've only been there a total of about 7 weeks in the 3 times I've been there. And I'd like to spend more time there. You need to go there and talk to people at a cafe. Go to Tel Aviv with your wife and sons if you can. Just go there. And then maybe you might be a little bit more harmonious feeling towards Israel or not wanting to wipe them off the face of the map. Of course,
I don't want to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. I don't want anyone in Israel to be killed. I want there to be a nation in that region in which everyone who lives within its borders, Jew, Palestinian, Christian, Druze, Muslim, every single one of them has equal political rights. And there's a very, very tight economic safety net to guarantee all sufficient resources. That's what I want. And I believe that region, that country should include Gaza and the West Bank because they're all so close to each other and all contingent. Now, I could be persuaded maybe the West Bank could be incorporated into Jordan. Maybe Gaza could become part of Egypt. These are different ways of looking at it. But regardless, there has to be true political determination, self-determination for the Palestinian people, and there isn't.
Why don't you get in touch with the members of the Israeli parliament who are Arabs and try to have a discussion with them? If you'll need an interpreter, try to arrange that. Maybe that might. I'm not. It might tenderize your thinking some, and only talk to the Arabs member of the Israeli parliament.
I don't know what that would do. It's not going to change my view. I mean, my basic presumption is that every single human being deserves the right to choose their leaders, to choose who represents them. And that isn't the case with the Palestinian people. The Israeli government oppresses them. The Israeli government and its military pushes them around, shoots them, kills them, rapes them, tortures them. So there's nothing anyone can say to me that's going to change my view that that's wrong.
You need to go. You still need to go.
Well, I mean, I know you see it the same way. So what have you, is it just because of the Holocaust? Do you think that somehow the Jews or the Israelis get a pass because of what the Nazis did to them? They get to do the same thing to another group of people?
No, that they have a right to live in Israel and wake up every morning and know that this is their little New Jersey-sized country. That's all it is.
But what about the other people who live there? Why are they sort of just left out in the cold?
They're doing well. I don't know. I think the look at the commercial. Do you ever see those? Do you watch TV at all?
I do sometimes.
Okay. Do you ever see the ads for that group of Christian and Jews? The leader, the father, died about 2 years ago, and his daughter has taken it on, and their executive offices are in New York. And for years, they had it was all, of course, incentives to give money for boxes of food, like $25 buys a box of food for an impoverished Jew. It was done in Russia, in like rural parts of Russia. Now they're changing it to Israel, and even in Israel, the quality of life is so much better in these ads for soliciting funds than it was in when they were doing it using people from Russia who looked extremely tattered and poor, and they're and saying these are your fellow Jews, and they have Christians endorsing them, and they must be taking in millions of dollars a year, especially to afford the offices they have in New York. You see, the quality of life, even for a poor Jew, is better in Israel than it is up. We're talking about Jews who do not have people to speak on their behalf or even know how to ask. And
well, that's what life is like for the Palestinians. Only the Jewish people in, I guess, Russia, where there was a lot of poverty and there remains a lot of poverty, they're not being mowed down with guns. They're not being herded together when they're trying to get some food. Life isn't great in Russia. I'm not saying it is, but there's no slaughter of Jewish people there or anywhere else in the world right now. But there is, by Jewish people, by Israelis, a slaughter of the Palestinian people.
You know, there is racism against certain Ethiopian Jews in Israel. I was told that by an Ethiopian woman who's not Jewish, who, with the Falasha Jews coming there still is racism, unfortunately. And that's another problem, and that's within Israel.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, people are we're tribal. We evolved to be tribal. We evolved to believe that the people who are in our little village are better than everybody else, that there's a huge evolutionary advantages to believing that, to feeling that, to living that way. And that's who we are. So we are going to think if someone doesn't look like us, doesn't look like the people the faces we first saw when we were born, that they're inferior. That's just human nature, but we have to rise above it, and we have to recognize our shared humanity and do everything we can to protect life.
Yeah. Supposedly, Moses' wife, Zipporah, was of Ethiopian descent. I mean, I'm being very simplistic in saying that. There are a lot of other terms in the Torah about that, but and who her father was. And
Shoshana, I gotta move along. I really appreciate your call. I'll give you a final word. I always like to give my callers a final word. So, any last word before I let you go?
Please visit Israel and Palestine if they'll let you in.
All right, I appreciate that very much. That's great to have Shoshana calling. Really appreciate her call, and first-time caller, I believe. So very exciting to have her joining Halitics.